We often find ourselves in situations where we have no choice but to share space with people who wish us harm. Whether it's a toxic relative at a holiday dinner or a coworker you see every morning, their constant presence creates a kind of mental claustrophobia. Most people will tell you to just ignore them, but that rarely works in the heat of the moment. If you're still carrying the weight of their words after the conversation ends, you haven't actually ignored them. You've just stayed quiet while they hit their target. To stop the cycle, you have to look at an insult as an energetic transaction. When someone attacks you, they are usually drowning in their own internal heat and frustration. They aren't trying to communicate. They are trying to offload that discomfort onto someone else. This negative energy is looking for a home, but it can only leave the attacker's system if the person on the receiving end accepts the delivery. The trap is the reaction. Even if you only speak up to defend yourself, you've engaged. By fighting back, you've provided a surface for that energy to strike, effectively absorbing the mess so the attacker can walk away feeling relieved. True protection doesn't come from building a thicker wall. It comes from removing the target entirely so there is nothing for their energy to latch onto. This shift has to begin internally. We have to ask why certain words still sting, even when we're trying our best to stay detached. Usually, hidden expectations tie us down. We hope they'll finally treat us with respect. These hopes act like taut wires. When they behave badly, the shock travels down the wire, disrupting your peace. To be free, you must cut the lines. When you stop expecting a toxic person to be anything other than what they are, they lose their ability to surprise or hurt you. Once those internal ties are cut, your outward behavior changes. You no longer feel the need to brace yourself when they walk into the room. You start to behave like air. When an insult is thrown, you don't block it. You simply let it pass through. By letting go of the need for them to be different, the words find no friction. But total silence isn't always practical, especially at a family event or a workplace where social friction can make things worse. In these cases, you can separate the person's behavior from their basic humanity. You can acknowledge their presence without inviting their drama. Offer a brief, polite greeting to fulfill the social requirement, and then immediately turn your attention elsewhere. You aren't being rude. You are simply closing the door before a conversation can even begin. This kind of superficial politeness acts as a buffer. It keeps the peace in the room while ensuring you stay completely removed from the conflict. However, detachment is a strategy, not a rigid rule. You have to adjust your response based on the type of attack. For instance, how do you handle someone who tries to make you the punchline of a joke in front of a group? In this case, the attacker is looking for your discomfort. If you get defensive, they win. But if you laugh along or agree, you remove the resistance they're counting on. By showing that the insult has no power to bother you, you've essentially made the joke irrelevant. A different approach is needed when the attack moves from petty jokes to serious slander or false accusations that could damage your life. When your core character is being lied about, the time for silence is over. You break your detachment to provide a clear and public defense of the facts, regardless of who is watching. The goal isn't to be a passive victim. It's to choose where you spend your energy, only engaging when the stakes actually matter. Once you stop engaging, people around you might start to complain. You'll be told you're being too cold, or that you should just make up for the sake of the family. You have to remember that setting these boundaries isn't a punishment for them. It's a necessary step for your own health. It's about deciding what you will no longer allow into your life. The final step in finding this quiet is a shift in how you view forgiveness. Forgiving a toxic person isn't a gift you give to them. It's an internal housekeeping task. You let go of the resentment, because holding on to it takes up the mental energy you need for your own life. When you master this kind of detachment, other people's noise no longer reaches you. You can exist in the same room as the chaos, and yet it never quite touches your day.